And now moving on to the second panel of the day, I'd like to introduce the speakers we have in here today with us. The first speaker I'd like to introduce has 35 years of experience as an engineer, corporate manager, civil servant, trainer, faculty, and academic administrator. He has a PhD in management from BIT Mesra, an MBA from IMT Ghaziabad, and BTech from MNIT Jaipur. He's the founder director of Acropolis Faculty of Management and Research, Indore, and also served as deputy director and faculty management at ISTM JNU Old Campus, New Delhi. Please welcome Professor Sumer Singh. He's the Vice Chancellor of Jagannath University.
Welcome, Sumir sir.
The next speaker I'd like to introduce is a medical engineer and an eminent personality with a vast horizon of vision and mission. He served and practiced in prominent organizations such as Wellington Hospital in Delhi and the All India Institute of Medical Science. He then pursued his MD in psychiatry from North Shore, USA. He was conferred the Visionary Entrepreneur of India by former President of India Pranab Mukherjee. He was also felicitated by former US President Bill Clinton for his contribution towards providing nutritious meals to the students of government schools in association with Akshaya Patra Foundation. Please welcome Dr. Arvind Agarwal, President Arya Group of Colleges, Jaipur. Next speaker I'd like to introduce is a transformational leader and strategic thinker, consistently engaged in navigating the university to claim new heights. Working as a design practitioner with a degree in economics from Loyola Marymount University, he uses system thinking, design thinking, innovation, and disruption as a means to drive change in the world of education. He has been an influential advocate of innovation at the grassroots level and is committed to nurturing startups aimed at meeting the diverse needs of society. Please welcome Director of Mahwadi University, Mr. Jeet Mahwadi.
Welcome, Jeet.
Next speaker I'd like to introduce is a noted educationist with well-recognized achievements and he has been associated with some of the best institutes across the country. He is known for his academic acumen and has held several important positions in the Guru Nanak Dev University, Amritsar, including associate professor and then professor for 23 years until 2010. He also worked as registrar at GNDU for 13 years. Please welcome the Pro-Chancellor of Chandigarh University, Professor R.S. Bawa.
Welcome, Bawa sir.
Finally, again, the moderator of this August panel. He has 35 years of experience working in industry, R&D institutions, and academics in India, Japan, and the UK. He holds a PhD in electrical engineering from Cambridge University, UK. His early experience includes founder CEO Satya Bharti Consultants, Bangalore, Vice Chancellor BML Munjal University, to name a few. He has developed education pedagogy for the age of education 4.0, industry 4.0, and IoT and IoE era. He is the recipient of multiple awards and has over 175 publications and 4 patents to his credit. Please welcome Professor B.S. Satyanarayana, founder, Vice Chancellor of C.V. Raman Global University, Bhubaneswar. Welcome you, sir.
Welcome.
Over to you, Satyanarayan, sir. You can take over the panel.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am sure you have been enjoying an excellent program so far. And I think it has been a very educative and illuminative discussion that has gone on right from the morning. And we hope in our 1 hour time, we are also able to do some justice. And so can I share a few slides? Yeah. Okay. So I just want to start off with sharing a couple of slides just to put a perspective of about what we are speaking. And as we all know, we are in some exciting times, and the whole world is changing drastically. And therefore, in this changing world, it's very critical that, say, we seriously, and everything is being enabled by education. And of course, we have already had the names of the, so we want to talk about how do we enable students? Because the whole education 4.0 says it's student centric, and without the student, and it's anytime, any point, anywhere learning is what is education 4.0. And for that to happen, so many things have been changing, and already many of these points have in principle been discussed in the earlier discussion. But now we would like every one of our panelists to maybe spend 5 to 6 minutes to say something about what are they doing about some of these points, as to what are the best practices they have adapted to ensure personalized learning, and how can, say, technology make sure it is truly inclusive, and especially in terms of enabling, because everybody learns in their own way, and therefore there is no one shoe fit all. How is it enabled? And even more importantly, the whole of education today is multidisciplinary. Gone are the days when you could live in independent silos. How do we bring in assignments, projects, case studies, all of them together in a multidisciplinary approach to develop the type of skills and competence that the education should enable the student? Because finally we are gone out of the age of just to know, to even just to do. Now we are supposed to enable to do, and not just say he has been there, done that, but develop competence, skills that he can leverage for life. And therefore it's an entirely new paradigm we are going to discuss. And then besides that, of course, the even more important is that, the chalk and talk age is over. And the teacher has to be a facilitator, as already mentioned many times in the morning. And he can no more be, he or she cannot be just sitting on a stage and pontificating, but then they have to be a facilitator working in a collaborative way, even in a class. So how are we doing those things? And above all, most of this technology enabling, even in times of Corona, was done leveraging digital technology, digitalization, because today the whole world, digitalization is a key enabler. But then in India, we are talking of an education system where today we have about 300 million people in education, 36 million or 37 million, depending on whose numbers, just in higher education. And this number is expected in next 10 years to go to 500 million in education and maybe 100 million in higher education. And for such a lot of people, the diversity is huge. So in spite of, the accelerated digitalization in this country, are we in a position to do personalized education is also a very huge challenge. So when we talk of learner-centric education, I think these are some of the parameters we need to talk of. I will not talk of the education system because we have already mentioned, many of them have spoken. But as we said, it has to be learner-centric. And above all, this learning, gone are the days of just learning to know and get into a job. It's lifelong learning. And again, we have to now enable learning, not just for the current young students, but even people who are in job have to be educated to transform into new jobs. So when you're talking of learner-centric education, we are not talking of just 5 and 10, say 10, 15-year-olds and higher, but we are even talking of a 55-year-old. Can he now have a transition? Can I excite him, get him into education and enable the transformation? So we are into talking and bring in all the skill competence of, from basic communication, understanding, writing to, analytical thinking, critical thinking, creative thinking, global, lateral thinking. So all this has to happen. It means we are looking, and just if you are looking at the last week's, the World Economic Forum data, it clearly says two things are very critical for today's context. How are you going to, what are the things that are expected to change or enable the change? If you simply look at, they say digital tools are going to enable 90% of the change. So our education, we are going to talk about digital tool and enable it to cause a transformation. And the next point, you're close to, again, say 80% is going to be enabled by training, education, skilling, learning, relearning, reskilling. And therefore, what we are going to speak now about learner-centric education, I think is just but this 2 points is very, very critical. And even more critical is the whole world is looking at India as a key global change enabler. And if you, whether it is, because after COVID, you have, people are looking at new technology, new industrial revolution, again, policy and economic governance changes, relocation, sustainable development. And in all this activity, you will see that India is number 1 or number 2, whether it was last 3 years when before COVID, and even in the next 3 years, if people are asked about how do they perceive about India, India is supposed to be number 2. And for all this to happen, everything is knowledge enabled. Whether it is service sector, whether it is technology sector, it is knowledge enabled. And this knowledge enabling and again ability to learn, unlearn, relearn in the education 4.0 cannot but happen without education. and that too a learner centric, because each one has their own pace of learning, scale of learning. So I would request now, and plus of course another huge opportunity that we need to talk about is definitely, I think, sustainable development or circular economy. This also brings in a huge amount of opportunity, and whatever we do, we are supposed to enable this 3-4 C's of critical thinking, collaboration. All has been said in the morning, so I will not repeat. Or maybe the 4 W's of ways of working, tools of working, ways of thinking, and ways of living in the world have to be enabled to the kids. And this enabling simply cannot be business as usual. It has to be experiential learning, and that is where learner-centric becomes even more critical. Even when we were only to give information, we were in trouble. We couldn't do it. People, students were said to be incompetent. Whereas from time immemorial, I mean, our education was said to be tarka, discussion-based. Our education was based on questions, prashna. And that is what, I mean, and again, Chanakya later said that, say, Siddhir Bhushyati Vidya, the glory of education is ability to practice it effectively. So this learner-centric education is the only way all this can happen. So now I would like to invite all of our, and again, just want to conclude with this 1 or 2 slides and invite our expert speakers to convey their points, because again, a recent study in US clearly says that experiential learning, interactive learning, and learner-centric learning literally, I mean, say, enables a 30-40% enhancement in outcome, and therefore it cannot be, I mean, when students are going to be looking at education and process the information cognitively, behaviorally, effectively, and socially, it cannot be business as usual. So now I'll just stop sharing, and I invite all of our experts to please join, and maybe we can start with Professor Sumer Singh, and so we'll just go in a sequence, and please spend about 6 to 7 minutes, and maybe half a minute before I might request you that there is, then we can come back for questions also. We'll do about 7 minutes each and then come back for questions. And I'm sure we have an exciting panel and we'll have a very interesting discussion. Welcome, please. Welcome, Professor Sumati.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Satyanarayana. Good afternoon, all the panelists, Ms. Chandan, then the coordinator of the session, Mr. Rahul. To me, it's a great opportunity for all of us, all the academicians, and many other people who are listening today to us. Since last 6 months precisely, I'm seeing that yes, whatever we were thinking 5 years back, or even many of us were thinking 10 years back, it's happening. And COVID has preponed the activities, the many of the things has gone on online. So let me start from where Mr. Abhishek has given certain inputs, and those are very vital inputs. But let us not forget the interest of Generation Z in terms of their likings, in terms of their anxiety, in terms of their habits and use of social media, and even the digitized world. At the same time, I would like to mention that even yesterday it was in newspaper that many of the organizations, keeping in mind the interests of youngsters, or precisely the Generation Z, even the gig workers, the contractual workers are again coming in picture, and they are finding it out that let us find out at least 20-30% of our workforce as gig workers. Yes, we come across the students maybe immediately passed out or 3-4 years experienced, our even on graduates, even they are also moving with this trend. And one of the researcher of our PhD program, she is doing a research on gig workers. So why I'm sharing the Generation Z interest and even the requirements of the industry, maybe 5 years beyond or 10 years beyond, in terms of gig workers, I think this is the right time. We are setting the right culture in campuses through this digital technology. Now, let me come back to the topic where we have, I think, decided to deliberate the student-centric and use of technology. Let me tell you, a student come across, not only student, but even many times, let us not forget the other stakeholders, whether those are parents, society, or even the industry people. Many times they see how we are operating, even starting from our website and many other, what I should say, the media presences, and they decide that who we are as an institution. So earlier, maybe 20 years back, if I see the website, and that is the updated website. Now 2 decades have passed on. And today, if we have to start the admission process in any institution, I think a lot of inputs have been given by Mr. Abhishek. So I think all of them are relevant. And the time has gone that yes, we were looking for counseling, we were looking for maybe the advertisements through print or electronic media. Today, every one of as institutions have to go for predicting that who will be our what I should say, the prospective customers in terms of students. Same case happens with the student, that definitely even they will not love to come to the campus unless we are not providing certain informations through our website, social media, or even specific ERP download for the admission process, either on our own or maybe the associates like extras. So that is the starting point, and even this process also I understand as even the student-centric, because how they decide about the admission, that is also the part of the whole process. Same way, let me go back to maybe how they are going to get the degrees. So let me appreciate the efforts of UGC. I think 5 years back or more than that, they came with NAD. I mean, they wanted to have the digitized degrees on cloud, but today, even every government, state or UGC and the other central government agencies, they are forcing for that every degree should be on the cloud, and let the password be with the student. And even the corporate can also go for the self-verification. So I think starting from the admission process to getting degree on cloud, and that is for employer even, I think this is the, then let me talk about once we have registered the student, and that is online. And the first experience they would like to have is that yes, if as a student, first 15 days or first 1 month, if I am engaged while sitting back home, I think I'll be the happiest student of that particular institution. And this is where the role of this, what I should say, the pace-based learning comes in, that if we have the system of assessing the students, either through some questionnaires or maybe through SWOT analysis or maybe some mentoring document online, I think we can share some pre-study modules, and that is to online in form of videos or maybe the PDF course. The slow learners and the fast learners, many times we start our remedial courses or maybe the bridge courses once they come to the campus. Again, every student wants like that. So, and then again, I think once they come to the campus, every institution is doing a lot of activities in first week or first 2 weeks on the name of induction in the orientation program. There also, I think activity-based learning, and that is to online. I think if we can introduce all these things, I think the students of today and tomorrow will be the happiest guys. Then similarly, the classroom, I think it was very astonishing for me. 2 years back, if I used to ask my maths faculty that, yes, can you have PowerPoint slides? Can you teach all these things through maybe digital media? I think they used to hesitate a lot, right? Other subjects, yes, they can have PowerPoint slides, but the maths teachers, but now in last 6 months, we could see wonderful, I think they have innovated like anything, and they were explaining the mathematic problems and the solutions in a wonderful way and interesting way. So to my mind, I think this is the right time that we must develop our own capacity building wherever we can. Otherwise, there are experts. I think we will see many more organizations who are being awarded, and starting from admission to many other platforms, they can offer to us and they can become partner in institutions. So to my mind, there is no other way. Once we are talking about accessibility, once we are talking about affordability, I think the right time has come, and the Generation Z is going to rule the game. And if we don't do, they will force us to do it forcibly. Thank you. Sir, you are muted. Sir, you are muted.
Yeah, thanks, Professor Sumaya Singh, for broadly giving a whole current process that we go through, and especially from the day of induction, how do we try to keep the student experience? Because again, their experience is very critical now I am sure everybody is aware today, the new assessment expects to have more surveys of student satisfaction and student expectations from, so it's very critical that we engage them, where even a maths teaching has to be made exciting. And that is where learning has to be made a joy. Only then it will become truly student-centric. So now maybe I would like to invite maybe Professor Bava to maybe give some of his points. Is he there? Or Professor Agarwal? Maybe you can start and Professor Bava can join later.
Hi, very good afternoon to every eminent speaker. This is a great initiative taken by the ASHA for combining all the stakeholders, especially from the teaching fraternity. Being a management, it is always a challenge to teach the students and to make them successful in their life and in the society. And if we are talking about the learning, and if we talk about the technology, there are two different aspects, but with the advent of the time, these two are overlapping it, and now learning has to be technology oriented. Technology is always a double sword, and if you are with the technology, you will become a good learner, and if you leave your technology and if you do not use the available sources or available resources of technology, you will be a loser. So my first advice to everybody, the stakeholders, if the students are there, my first advice will be that you should be always on the right side of the technology. I must say that before Corona, it is not that the subject or the course or the curriculum or the resource was not there online. Google has taken, in last 15 years, Google was so resourceful that at home, students used to learn from that. They used to copy the project. They used to make online slides and everything. But suddenly with the COVID, it has come in our classroom and we became a hybrid persons who are giving online classes and teaching with the technology. And the new word arises, online teaching. Online teaching is a concept, and people have taken it very nicely. Our teachers took some time to grasp the technology and start teaching the students. But if you see the outcome and the learning is a different horizon, and it is a different aspect. Only with technology you cannot have learning, and if learning has to be there, there has to be a way where you can teach and make a student understand the concepts. To teach the concept, you really need a 1:1 or classroom teaching, or you need a eye-to-eye contact, which is very important in the offline aspect. And there are so many fancy words has come. Teaching may skillful, resourceful, aptitudinal, emotional, psychological learning. But being a India and being an Indian students who are very competitive all over world, I will say that our teaching methodology for the last 50 years or 40 years is very nice. Wherever our students have reached, they have done very wonderfully good. So, and with the not the best of the teachers, not the best of the academic environment, not with the best of the infrastructure, but bookish knowledge, and students has learned it and they have delivered it. And now India is a superpower in technology and everywhere. Now with the advancement of technology, the things has come different. Industrial Revolution 4.0 is coming, and we are still very behind if we go by manufacturing sector or adoption of technology. And since industry is not able to adopt the technology, it is very difficult that it will come in course and curriculum. If you cannot see and feel the technology, you cannot teach the technology. Speaking on mobile and speaking on tablets is very easy because we were using since 2006 and everybody has a touch phone by 2012. The middle income group, I'm talking about the middle income group, and they have experience of touch screen and teaching on mobile and tablets for 7 or 8 years. But beyond that, how you will teach the robotics, how will you teach the automation, how you are going to teach the artificial intelligence. Either you are going to gather this knowledge either from the industry or either from the theory. And to teach the practical aspect of all these things, disruptive technologies, first the teacher has to gear up. As a management, we give a lot of exposure. I invite everybody to come to my college and you will be surprised what kind of robotics, artificial intelligence, and what kind of manufacturing facilities in the lab we have. We are designing to marketing to selling the products, robotic products. So it is the mindset of the management should be the management, and the mindset of the teachers and the people who are at the top, that they should introduce technology in their campus, because very few industries are there to teach or show, and they are very reluctant to show the technology to the student. The most important question is how we are going to upgrade our teacher, upgrade our practical labs. And mostly it is seen that every brochure in every institution, even in IITs, it is written as state of technology. I don't know how many people have visited IIT website. You will be surprised. They are playing with the toys of 1,000 rupees as a robotic car, and they have nothing, hollow, totally hollow. And it is the only self-financing private engineering college which is producing more than 5 lakh engineers. We are like MSc, MEs, which is carrying the burden of the nation. And we are not like MNC, the elite class. And the government here is very putting 20,000 crore rupees to produce 20,000 engineers, and 1 crore person, and that person goes out. So, and they are not upgrading their technology, they are not upgrading their labs. Teachers are not ready to teach them. Teachers are still 30 years back. They know only about the generators and transformers. They don't know about electric vehicles. And I don't know how the things will go. If the best of the best technology and elite institute of our country and best students are going to a institution where they find academics academics not up to the marks, labs not up to the marks, upgradation of the teaching material has not been done. So it comes to us that the second layer of the teachings, where we have to give the best to the students. That is our moral duty, and we are bound that the learning process has to be better, faster, and good, and they can be absorbed with the newer technology. At least we should prepare them with the environment where they can settle down and can learn from the industry. If we cannot provide that learning of the latest technology, because if you go to industry, they adopt 100, they are using the cutting edge technology that is like 100%. And in 4 years of engineering, we are unable to teach from 0 to 100%. Either you give me 5th year, I will make them the most technocrat person engineer, but nobody is ready to give 5th year. So we lack somewhere, and there is a institutional industry gap always exists. Either we complete with the training or with the teaching process, this is a great question to be asked from the educationists, how you are going to fill the gap between the industry and institutional academia, and how you are going to introduce the latest technology in their campus, and how you wish to teach your and train your teachers to teach the best of the technology. These are three big questions, and teaching and learning and technology will continuously go for another 50 years. We are on a big threshold of industrial revolution. Everything will be changed. Every environment will change. Every room will have a assistant with artificial intelligence. So everybody has to live with that kind of technology driven things. So we have to adopt it, and we should buckle up and put money, put the best effort, resources in our campus to teach the best. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Agarwal, for highlighting, the type of constraints with which we are trying to deliver, and what are the type of orientation that the faculty would need. And finally, for the type of technology that we need to deliver, it has to happen with touch and feel, and just a digital presence by itself will not do. And more importantly, saying, even highlighting how what India has become reasonably recognized as a technology leader in service. But we need to lot more to be an innovator in product and process development, and the industry academic collaboration that has to happen. So you have touched upon a wide range of parameters that we need to cumulatively look at in delivering and actually ensuring innovation, job creation, all of that should happen. And it's not an easy task. And also the policy, government constraint, the policies, how to constrain private institutions, also something you touched upon, which is very critical. And also sometimes how maybe the government institutions get away literally with murder. Sorry, I shouldn't use the word, with what they have. And so, but we'll go beyond. But it's, I think all like these are important enablers to truly create learner-centric education. It's a huge challenging task. So now I would like to request Professor Bawa to please educate us and enlighten us with your thought. So you have about 7 minutes, sir. And after 6 minutes, maybe I will request you mention about the time. Thank you, please. And then we can go back for questioning later. Thank you.
No problem. Welcome. No problem. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Well, I think let me start by appreciating the effort of the ASMA for bringing us together and sharing our thoughts. The topic is very relevant, but I would like to say something about what do we understand by student-centric. Student-centric definition will keep on changing from time to time. We are dealing with students of 21st century. We are dealing with students who are well informed, who are exposed to technology right at the time of their birth. So if, like we say, a student is born with a mobile phone in his hands, his or her hands. So the aspirations are different. The aspiration of the student of today are much different when we were students. And the students 10 years hence, their aspirations will be entirely different from what aspirations the students have today. So therefore, leveraging technology would also have its own different domains and definitions and channels. How to do that? To my mind, there are three ways to look at it. The first one is, as we say, the delivery of content, whatever we want to do, how we use technology to deliver the content. And that will be, delivering content in, say, all virtual mode or online mode, or in a, you can say in the classroom or blended mode or whatever. I think the answer already we all know. The current pandemic has taught us, and I think this also will partly meet the aspiration of the student, that we'll have to go in for a blended mode. So the technology will have to be leveraged to continue with blended mode for a long time. And for all times, rather, I would say. But this blending will have different kind of contours, different kinds of connotations, and whether you want to allow the students to do something on their own, or you want them to learn through a technology X or Y or Z. The second thing which is important about technology is that use technology to fascinate the mind of the student. What I feel is that the today's student will feel very quickly bored and disinterested, and that is causing a major problem. You use n number of technologies, it is not going to bring them around. So they feel after 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, they'll say, okay, nothing doing, you're not doing anything. So we have to somehow create curiosity and fascination in their minds about the subjects you are teaching, about whatever you're doing. So maybe you will have to use a lot of things in the classroom itself and use technology and leverage technology, whatever is available on the net. So you have, I'm sure all good universities have connectivity of internet in the classroom, but very few teachers are using it because they are using it only for taking roll calls or a couple of other things. But I think it's time now that you bring in something current, something latest, something which has happened today itself. Okay, show it in the classroom so that the student's mind keeps focused and it takes you, it fascinates their mind and keeps them focused. The third thing which I think is important is the technology which the student has to face and use throughout his or her life. So all the latest technologies which are emerging in their own field, I'm talking about in their own field. And in Chandigarh University, we have introduced a special course. It's a small course of 2 credits, innovations and inventions in that field. So biotechnology student studies something different. Computer science student studies different. Even law students study something different. What kind of innovations and inventions have taken place in their own field over the last some time, and therefore we keep on revising it every year, use of AIs and all. Similarly, we have introduced AI as a compulsory paper for all students of the university, including biotechnology, agriculture, law, whatever, whosoever is there. They have to study artificial intelligence. They have to be exposed to artificial intelligence, because even if they don't create tools for artificial intelligence, they will have to use artificial intelligence in their own profession. So this is the third aspect of technology, which you will have to expose to the students so that they are able to cope up with what will be required of them in the future. Another aspect of technology is that how you manage the whole system will need another technology. So you have to be online. Everything has to be digital, in a digital mode. For example, in my university, right from 2012, everything is online. No student is required to fill any examination form. No admit cards, nothing, no sitting plans. Everything is online. It is available in mobile apps, and everything is available to the students online. We have now document bank, but Chandigarh University has been providing these students with their DMCs and degrees online right from 2012-13. So they have all the DMCs there. Of course, when they get it printed, it's a written copy. So the original one, they will get it. So technology has to be leveraged in giving them a lifetime experience. So if I may say in short, that those universities which leverage technology, like we have acquired Blackboard recently, recently means last year. So we have our own ERP solution. We call it CU-UIMS. And you have to be self-dependent also to quite an extent. So we have to develop a lot of technology in-house. So I think that sums up my presentation, that you have to leverage technology to give a student a lifetime fascinating experience in all fields of their activity and make them a globally relevant and sought after professional. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you very much, Professor Bawa. I think again, it is wonderful complementary points to whatever our previous speakers have already mentioned, as to again starting off with saying that first and foremost today, I mean, the attention span of student is very small, and therefore he has to be excited about the class that he comes in. I mean, because earlier, even with all the study, they said 45 minutes is the attention span. That had come down to 20, and today it is literally come down to 60 seconds. And therefore, what you say is very critical. Let's say the attention span is a key enabler. And then not just the attention, but even more important is how do we have a blended mode of learning and enabling, so that whole 45 minutes or 50 minutes or whatever the class engagement becomes very lively and participative. And then, of course, you spoke about, I mean, the need, I think, for having ease of doing things, because finally we don't want to waste time. I mean, when technology is available, leverage it for using optimized use of time and minimize unwanted processes and make it even more engaging. And above all, as the whole, whether it's a national education policy, the science technology innovation policy, everything talks of today, I mean, creating entrepreneurship, innovation, and India as a technology leader, Atmanirbharta. So saying, bring in a course on innovation and making sure different students learn different different aspects. I mean, whether I'm in biotechnology, engineering, law, I'm looking at the emerging opportunities that are coming in my domain to be excited about every subject I learn. I think that was a very good set of points, and of course, many more, but for short of time, I don't want to be repeating it. So I would now like to invite Mr. Jeet Mahwadi to come and present his views about some of the exciting things that you are doing with your institution as to how do we enable learner-centric education, especially leveraging technology. Welcome, Mr. Jeet.
Thank you so much, Professor Satyanarayana. I'm happy to be here on this forum today. I have just joined, the university in the capacity of a trustee about 4 years ago. So I'm, quite young compared to all of you, all dignitaries here.
Today is the age of millennials.
Thank you, thank you very much. But I feel quite close to education, drawing from my personal experience. So when we talk about personalization in education, I think we need to step back and think about why personalization is necessary. Because I was one of those kids in school that was not engaged very well, if I would say, in the normal way of things, the average way of doing things. So it was, difficult for all types of learners to engage, right? All types of learners to participate and all types of learners to learn. So I think that's what personalization is here to solve. So that's one aspect. The other aspect, and I think this is a thought that I would like to present, which was written by Oscar Wilde. He said that education is an admirable thing, but it is well to remember from time to time that nothing that is worth learning can be taught. So, this is a very insightful phrase, and I think we need to think Oscar Wilde had written it, a couple of centuries ago, and we're in 2021 discussing the same thing. Nothing worthwhile learning can be taught. So we have always known this. We have always known that, by teacher teaching something does not mean student learning it. And this is what we have to really look forward to solving with the right set of cultural practices. I would say I would leave technology aside for a few minutes here, because I would like to say that in terms of enabling and fostering an environment where individuals can flourish, find themselves, their interests, technology comes very much later on. Initially, you have to be exposed to different ways of thinking, different ways of interacting, different ways of making things. So I think when we talk about, I think Professor Bawa said something very important. I really appreciate that curiosity is something that has to be brought into the university, right? It cannot be mechanized. Today, more so than ever, universities try to optimize their space and their resources. It becomes an optimization game. Student faculty ratio, number of classrooms, number of students, number of programs, admissions, all these administrative aspects. So technology has to be thought of and used in a way that enables administrative burdens to be taken off of people and people to be creative. When I say people, I mean faculty, of course. Faculty as facilitators is something that Bloom's taxonomy has been teaching for a long time. Teachers have to take the ownership of curating and creating a learning experience rather than going over text, and which teachers are really trying. And I would say that we are one of the few institutions where we have really imbibed and embraced an environment where faculty and students can learn together. So we've implemented choice-based credit system, we've implemented project-based learning, we've implemented some of the best practices. But even though we think that there is a recipe for a world-class university, I say there isn't. The number one most important thing is diversity of students. So we have about students from 31 countries now in a small town called Rajkot in Gujarat, which is an achievement in itself. With 10,000 students, I think diversity and culture will enable technology to then be adopted. Focusing just on technology, on some of the tools that are available, it could go very, absolutely wrong, because until and unless the culture enables the right environment for technology to be adopted for the right reasons, we will be in a scenario of a lot of chaos. And we have to be mindful. I think being today, it feels like there is a race. right? There's a race to achieve a lot of good, achieve success in terms of academic excellence. And while you have as an administrator or as a key management representative, what's on our minds is always how do we enable quality education to the masses? Because the median age in India today is the age of 27 years. And that means there is a huge sum of population that needs the right sort of counseling and environment. I'll repeat myself, counseling, environment, and culture is what's most important here. Technology is only here to enable that to happen better. And so I would like to, also one of our contemporaries today, Elon Musk, as a celebrity in terms of what he has achieved, what is said, college for learning is for free. Today, anyone can learn from anywhere, from the best, right, from across the world in any language. So knowledge is not something that's important. What's important and what college does, in fact, is prove that one, student can do their chores, and two, for students to have fun. So that's something that I truly believe, because if you look at it, an 18-year-old or 17-year-old also wants to have fun. So within the 4 years of his time or her time at the university, we expect them to be career ready. We expect them to understand the core of their engineering, science, management programs. We expect them to have fun. We expect them to be, future ready. I think that is just expecting too much, too soon, in a short period of time. So I would say that university is a time where you discover yourself. And I'm speaking about this, from my personal experience, so I can vouch for this, that students should be allowed and to discover themselves. And that's where the role of the university comes in, and technology should only be used as a tool to enable this to happen. So thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Jeet. I think it was a very nice presentation, and again highlighting some of the other complementary points that we couldn't touch up with the earlier panelists, especially mentioning, as you rightly said, learning has to be something perceived from inside. So it cannot simply come by anybody pontificating. And so of course, wonderfully quoting Oscar Wilde. And therefore, that's why the today's education, it is saying we are the facilitators, we are enablers to move the student, identify his passion and move towards that, as you rightly mentioned, again by exposing a wide range of activities. Again, the whole point of coming to an institution is, like all the other learned speakers have already mentioned, so how do they create an ambience and an environment to give a wide range of ambience for the student to realize or get curious, again, as you mentioned, develop the curiosity, also Professor Bawa mentioned. So in them, the excitement, curiosity in them, which would lead them to, some of their passion or, life's goal or whatever. And then learning has to, as you again said, internalize, and that's what the whole of new education paradigm is anyway. It's lifelong learning, because learning never ends. So I think these were very important points. And of course, you also highlighted about the need for diversity, because only then, because if I'm confined to my area, my community, my group, then I will not even know what is the type of opportunity I'm missing. And therefore, very important to also talk about the diversity, which would again enhance the learner ability and the excitement that would come in a collaborative environment that happens in a good academic institution. So I think this was some very important, interesting points that you have presented. So I think we have all spoken enough things, but we'll maybe sort of just take 1 to 2 minute quick second round, where each of you could highlight some of the key points that your institution uniquely does. So Professor Sumir Singh, can you talk, say this is one of the best practice which we think has made our students enjoy learning. So could you please just take a minute or two max to highlight some things?
Even the recent development for the first years, the newly admitted batch, one thing we could do, that we could get connected through Google document only, which used to be done in the campus itself. There's SWOT analysis, some skill set or proficiency in quantitative or the English, written English. And I think those were the inputs we could get. And few of the modules we have sent them online. So once they join the campus, they came prepared, and we could tackle the entry behavior before they join the classroom. So I think that was one activity. Yeah. But still, I feel there are two areas which are, I think, maybe the bottlenecks or issues to be taken with a very serious note, not only by institution, but even the government of India also. One, you have mentioned the digital divide. Even in our area, we could see the people from rural background, yet they faced a lot of difficulty in internet connectivity. The second challenge is faculty development program. And to my personal view, I think in NCR region, this Kisan Andolan, I think cutting the internet is a easiest way. So even for a whole week, I think we could not conduct our exams or the classes. So I think as far as connectivity is concerned, some serious actions are to be taken.
Thank you, Professor Singh. I think, as you rightly mentioned, it's orienting the student towards the culture of education, the process that you're creating in your institution. I think that is very critical, because only then, I mean, it will be easy because then you're facilitating the teacher to better deliver the whole content. So I think that's very critical. And of course, leveraging connectivity is very critical in that. I mean, the internet. So maybe Dr. Arvind Agarwal, can you just highlight some unique process of your institution, which we all could, I mean, as a best case study or a new process, best practice, adapt in our system?
Thank you, sir. I always believe whenever there is an investment, there is intent, and there is a infrastructure, and there is a growth. The most important thing during COVID is we have done a lot of investment, and we have upgraded our labs to from designing to manufacturing. We have made robots, we have made medical kiosks, we have made bionic hands. Until and unless we imbibe and we nurture the inherent innovative thought process of the student, we are not going to learn anything. We have to first nurture nurture his ambition, nurture his innovative thoughts, and then we have to provide the means that he can incubate and he can become an entrepreneur. I am into it that every student after 5 years should be an entrepreneur. If our poverty eradication program in India would be only possible if our engineers, which are produced in maximum numbers in a particular vertical of education, if one engineer can provide employment to 10%, the way is that we will finish the. For that, we have created surface technology mount SMT technologies, state of the art. We can make any kind of PCBs, no touch technique, and we are using these PCBs for robots. We have cell one to the cyber cell police one, and we have software also. Toy fair is also being done by us, which is going to happen 29th, 23rd of the Prime Minister. So until and unless the management, the problem is the management. The management will not create the facility. The management will not create the investment. The management will not create the ecosystem for the students to learn. How the students are going to learn?
I think that's a very important
point. We are not
point.
going to teach, and we are not creating the infrastructure. We are not giving any facilities to make them learn. So it is the intention of the management.
Very
top
true.
mind
I think
of the institution,
I think now
or
I'd like to
university should be totally devoted towards the newer technology and the newer learning process, and touch screen technologies should be
what you mentioned
outdated.
Is,
I am touching and I am learning. Everybody has a tablet, everybody has a telephone.
I think for shortage of time,
I don't think anything online is a way to touch the things and learn the things. I don't agree. You have to create physical structure. You have to create physically investment. You have to create the labs. And then only you can teach the latest technology.
No, I think you have highlighted the point.
Learning is endless. And technology is also endless.
You have clearly highlighted the point that education needs investment. It doesn't happen in vacuum. And I think this is a very important point. We most of the time never speak in many of the forums. I mean, just to mention any of the top 100 universities in the world today spend anything from $500 million to $5 billion. And whole of our education budget is peanuts compared to that for about, I mean, say 37 million children. So what you said is very critical. We have to create appropriate infrastructure and give children truly to have a touch and feel activity to work, and also facilitate the teachers to do that. And finally, it is to be end-to-end system and design thinking activity where people can work with product, process, and solution. So I think there was a very good point mentioned by Dr. Agarwal. So Professor Bawa, I know again Chandigarh University also as a new university has done within a short span of time a lot of wonderful work, and as you already mentioned about the labs, innovation orientation, or hundreds of patents filed. So I think you can highlight some of the key points.
I'll just take 1 minute. Yeah, actually, one thing which I was mentioning about exposing the students to the future technologies. I'm very happy to share a healthy practice that we have created a corporate advisory board, and we have 37 industry sponsored labs on the campus, including a lab by IBM, Microsoft, Wipro, HP, Honda, Hyundai, Mahindra and Mahindra, and you name any, Virtusa, and all these Cognizant is coming up. So all these labs actually are creating a real good research and learning climate on the campus. And I think this is an area where, as very rightly mentioned, we have to invest. But I think what is required, as I mentioned, is that to make it student-centric, to make the student fascinated about what is happening around the world. So I think this is one thing I would like to share, that we are very successful in this area. Thank you so much.
Yeah, wonderful. I think, as he rightly mentioned, again, have this industry academic collaboration has to happen. It cannot be somewhere distant. It has to happen in the campus, and the student has to have a 24/7 literally access to work when if and when they want to. And that is the type of environment which will truly nurture innovation, research, and entrepreneurship, because that's the only way jobs will be created. Industry academic collaborations, MSMEs, new products, and from there scaled up to production alone, job creation will happen. MNC investment means reduction in jobs.
Sir, it has led to 900 patents being filed by Chandigarh University. We have filed 900 patents in the last 4 years.
Congratulations.
It's a record.
So, Mr. Jeet, can you please add some at least 1 or 2 unique aspects of best practices that you think you can educate us? We look forward to hearing from you, please. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you very much. So since most of our students, some of our students come from vernacular languages, background. So Gujarati medium speaking background. We've introduced a sort of online program called as Passport to Communication Skills, where we first focus on the mindset. We focus on the aspect that English is not a subject, it's a language. So when you say a subject, it becomes textbooks, it becomes practice, it becomes worksheets and all of that, and assessments. But we're talking about Passport to Communication Skills, which is a way for you to enhance yourself and your marketability as an individual in the market, especially for those who are looking for careers, right? Looking forward to being placed in the right companies. So we're looking at Passport to Communication Skills as an important element. We've also introduced pre-assessment. So in that assessment, what we do is we do a holistic analysis of the individual, and in all aspects, from the aspect of the employer. So we look at, so we've partnered with, CoCubes or some of the best placement assessment EdTech solutions, and they have a sort of pool of data on what employers are looking for. And in that, they help us, guide the students' learning through the 4 years that they are with us, right? So then we give interventions.
Yes, so under 30 seconds maximum, you would have, yes, please.
Sure. Thank you.
No. All right. So I think, again, you shared some very important point, and we partially also mentioned earlier, but it's very critical that first of all, we orient the students, with their mindset as to what they are getting into, and also truly assess them and then enable them, because otherwise you simply cannot give different, somebody who has no capability of singing, I cannot force him to sing, or somebody who cannot run, I cannot force him to run. So it's very critical we do a prior assessment and facilitate them in their area and competence of interest and competence. Wonderful. So I think we have had a good set of discussion. I'm not sure how much time we are left, but I would just like to maybe consolidate some of the point.
We can take the question answers also in the chat box. You may consolidate the point. We have time, no problem.
Yeah. So because I see in the chat box there are no, or the questions, there are not too many questions at the moment. So I would like to briefly overview, say whatever we are, and then if you have questions, we'll take it. So I'll just share a couple of slides, whatever has been said. I'm just consolidating in a couple of slides, and then we can further have a next set of discussion. Yeah. So whatever, oops, sorry. Just a minute, sorry, please. Yeah. So whatever we have been talking so far, it clearly comes down to, I think, first of all, a huge amount of investment in the infrastructure and capability, because all the speakers have clearly mentioned they have invested in process, systems, capability, first and foremost, to enable the teacher, and then of course from there to enable the student. And then we need to have clearly have a change of mindset from the conventional process, and therefore it cannot be business as usual. It has to be a flipped or a blended classroom, and even more importantly, the education has to be specialized and delivered contextually, and possibly even in a vernacular language. Language should not be a parameter to discredit a student and his capability. And experiential learning, project-based learning, case studies, all this have to happen. And more importantly, every one of them, whether it is a lecture, a video, an assignment, a case study, visit to an industry or a local facility for water treatment or environment activity, have to be assessed in such a way and educated in such a way that students learn from discussions and problem solving and debates as to say what can they do out of it. And that should again rightly be assessed for the skills and the competence that we want out of the student. If it is a learner-centric system, then you literally have to define a new assessment for every student, because his skill or assess him independently. Therefore, it has to be only a formative assessment. As general one-shoe-fit-all summative assessment will never be able to assess the student and his competence and truly facilitate him for whatever greatness he is able to do. I am sure we have all heard so many times, I mean, say asking Tendulkar to sing or Lata Mangeshkar to play cricket. It doesn't happen. I mean, so we would have to have independently assess them on their competence. That is where, I mean, the learner-centric system, and this assessment has to be enabled by first training and orienting the teacher, because we are with the, whatever our 200-year-old clerical-based examination system of one shoe fit all for rote learning. So every time, as again, even in the first session, there was a discussion, even though many new education process and facilities have come, education policy had come, somehow we fit it into our whatever we were doing. And that is why after 70 years, we are still talking that say we are not innovating, we are not preparing people, we have, or at least our assessment is wrong, but we have still, actually we may be facilitating. That's why any student, he goes abroad, he suddenly becomes a world leader. But then when he is here, even a gold medalist becomes incompetent after 1 or 2 years. And therefore, I think we seriously need to relook at our assessment. And again, that assessment of skills and competence has to be a continuous assessment, a formative assessment. Only then it truly becomes a learner-centric education and assessment. With all the facility, like whether it was Dr. Agarwal, Dr. Surya Singh, Mr. Meet or Professor Baba mentioned, if such facility and activities have been created, how do I assess with one exam? One summative exam? It will no way, it will only give the capability that he has rote learning or information capability. Therefore, the assessment has to be multivariant, and it has to, and teachers have to be oriented to assess for all the skills, whether it is, do they have the fundamental foundation? Can they communicate? For example, can you create case studies or activities of, say, writing a play or enacting a situation, and talking and assessment should be based on their communication, reading skills, inquiry. And finally, all this education and understanding should lead to inquiry. And from there, or the question, curiosity and inquiry. The inquiry skills have to be assessed. Are they asking questions? So that has to be assessed. And then can they communicate and write it well? And now if they have asked questions, if there are a set of questions, can they find a solution? Are they oriented to finding problem solving capability? How are they good with their numbers? I mean, and all this need not be calculation. The number ability can even be done by examples and discussion. So how do we bring that? And from there, leverage to analytical thinking, critical thinking, creative thinking, but doing all of this now mandatorily with ethics built in and a societal commitment built in. All this have to come in, and therefore the education, as again mentioned in the very beginning and some of the question pointers, it has to be an integrated education with a multidisciplinary system and design thinking overview, and with diversity built in. Only when we do all this together, I think we will be in a position to, because gone are the days when education, when the degree was the be all and end all of learning. Today, any degree, any certification is the beginning of learning for life and job. So it is a foundation of learn, where from that they can have ability to learn on their own. I mean, develop skills on their own, then be ready for lifelong learning. And therefore, I think the self-learning or this learner-centric education, the foundation of enabling is in the assessment, right assessment, and the assessment that does not denigrate the student but facilitate him. And as all the others have already mentioned, I'm happy to say we also have created multiple industry-based labs. About 30-40 crores of investment has gone in that in any domain. And also we work with local schools and ITA and diploma, so that seamlessly, whether you're working on aerospace, food technology, I mean, agriculture, medical, or software to high performance computing, they can start even from skilling at school. And then from that skilling certificate itself, we are trying to create set of certificates and certificating leading to degrees and diplomas, so that people even without going to a university or a college could go up to a PhD and also transform from one domain to another. That is the level of possibility only with student-centric learning. And therefore, the key points we have effectively said is that we should enable children for this 4 C's. We should also enable about the 4 ways of working, ways of thinking, ways of living, and all that. And more, it is essentially empowering the student and making him understand that he is now responsible for his learning. We are enablers of this activity, and that we cannot learn for his sake. As Oscar Wilde's quotation already Mr. Meath had mentioned, learning has to happen only from him. And therefore, for that, we need to have full proper orientation, digital preparation. I mean, these are all some of the points now mentioned: adaptation of technology and tools in the classroom, and possibly, as we said, make it agnostic to language. कोई भी भाषा में वो आंसर कह सके, तब भी हमारे formative assessment should be able to enable him. Just because he cannot speak English or he cannot do, he shouldn't be lost, because that is more geniuses. If you go to National Innovation Foundation, we have lakhs of technology done by our local genius innovators from the rural or other environment. So, and overall, I think
we need to move ahead with the session, sir.
Yeah, we are finished. I'm finished. That's so. And even AICT and other agencies have today come out with the conclusion that there is no more possibility of end semester exams, and therefore it's an opportunity for us to leverage this self-learning and create truly, exciting education capability and enabling the millions. As I said, we will soon be having 300 to 400 million, 500 million in schools, 100 million in higher education. And for them to be enabled, I think it's very critical that, we seriously bring in student-centric education, leverage technology, create infrastructure. It has to be a blended mode. And I think we are in for exciting time. So it is innovation in education. And we say, because education business itself is going to be 400 billion. And therefore, it's a huge opportunity. And thanks once again to the Mr. Chandan and Ms. Tanu Vyas for having us on board. I think it was very good learning from all of you. And I'm sure all around the day, it has been wonderful. I look forward to more such opportunities. And thanks to all my panelists for the great views. And sorry, we couldn't have a bigger discussion for the lack of time. And over to Chandan, please. Yeah.
I understand, sir. So these important topics and a justice of 1 hour is not, a good justice to the topics which we have actually selected. Day-long sessions will also be less in such kind of topics, and where we are talking about EdTech. So great learning, sir. It was a very insightful and very lovely deliberation by the esteemed panelists today. And good example being shared by you, what you have been doing at your renowned institutions, and what examples you laid across as a learning for other people to implement the same. So we are in an era of disruption, sir, well said, and let's embrace the technology is what is coming from everybody's mouths. So let us be innovative, keep scaling and reskilling. We need technology partners to help navigate through this unprecedented times.